All right, everyone, today we're going to talk about variables and expressions. All right, so go ahead and, if you haven't already done so, grab your notes. Go ahead and flip your binder over to where you can have green on the left, your green divider, and your notes on the right, your Chapter 1 notes on the right. Okay. We have 4 vocab words or phrases today. Our first one is variable, everyone. All right, so your book says this is a placeholder for any value. Okay, a little reminder for those of you that remember this from elementary school. Some of your teachers gave you worksheets back in the day that had this, maybe even when you were really young. A variable is pretty much what used to be the old-fashioned box. So what I mean by that is those problems that look like this, 3 plus box equals 5, and they ask you what fits in the box. Well, the box, as you get to this level, becomes a variable. All right, or a letter, I guess you could say, is a variable. So 3 plus x equals 5, for example. Okay. All right, the next word is algebra, everyone. Okay, so this is a branch of mathematics dealing with symbols. Okay, so that's the definition in your book. You talk about branch of mathematics, you could be thinking of algebra, but there's also geometry, statistics. Those are all different branches. Of course, there's more out there, but those are some major branches of mathematics. Algebra, of course, being one of them. So, you could just think of it as math with variables. Let's go ahead and write that in your little box off to the right there in your notes. Math with variables. Okay, our next word or our phrase is algebraic expression, everyone. Okay, so an algebraic expression is an expression that contains sums and or products of variables and numbers. All right, underneath that, go ahead and write 3m plus 5. That's an example of an algebraic expression. (3m plus 5). Go to write that in your small box off to the right. The next word or phrase is defining a variable, everyone. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to see even this in your notes, or I'm sorry, in your book today at times. So you'll need to know what it means, or even in the future. So here's what it's asking you to do. It's where you're choosing a variable and a quantity for the variable to represent an equation. Okay, so for example, when they ask you or have a question when you're solving 3m plus 5 if m equals 2. So they're telling you what m is. That's when they're defining a variable. Okay, so variables and expressions. If you haven't already done it, go ahead and grab your book, flip over to page 16 and 17. And grab a piece of paper and go ahead and write your name on it, the page, the assignment number, the date, of course your period, our basic heading for our paper. Okay, for the examples, let's go ahead. Hopefully you're already there in your book. You've labeled everything on top of your paper. Let's look at page 16, and let's do problem number 4 together first. So problem number 4, it says in the directions, it says translate each phrase into an algebraic expression. So number 4 says this. I'll go ahead and write this down. It says 30 pencils divided among some students. Okay, so it's a little phrase there. 30 pencils divided among some students. So here we go. The very first thing and with tonight's homework is that you're going to see a couple of things that you're probably used to. All right, and so I guess this could even be a step one. You're going to see keywords. For example, numbers, and you're going to see words that tell you what kind of operation it's talking about. So find those, identify them. Now, the other thing is you're going to have to find where the variable goes. Okay, and in this particular case, all right, something that represents the variable, well, 30 pencils divided among some students. Well, the sum basically tells you that's the variable. Okay, so because we're not sure how many students, so if it's 5 students, we'd write 5. If it's 10 students, we'd write 10. But the difference is they don't tell us how many students. So this is where we're going to put our variable, our letter. So we could write X. Your book even has it. Sometimes you'll see books use the variable that goes with the noun or the item that they're talking about. So S. I'm not too picky at which variable you use. You can use X or S as long as the operation and the order of it is all set up correctly. So after you identify this, then go ahead and give your finished product. So that would be step 3, and that is 30 divided by S. And of course in 7th grade, we're going to write it just like this, 30 divided by S, or like I said, by X. And that would be your answer. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to have you try one. Go ahead and on your homework, do problem number 12. Number 12, I'll go ahead and give you 30 seconds because it shouldn't take too long there. 30 seconds. Try out number 12. Okay, another 30 seconds. Go ahead and turn to your partner, share with them what your answer is, and see if you guys agree or disagree. So 30 seconds, go ahead and turn and share. Go. Okay, so problem number 12 in your book states, same directions, it states 3 times as many balloons. Okay, so a couple of words that I recognize is 3, of course. The word times, that's pretty easy, right? So times, I would write an X, but that looks like a variable. So I can put a dot for right now. There's a number of different things we can do. So for right now, I'll just put a dot. Now, it says 3 times as many balloons. Well, the variable is, I don't know how many balloons they're originally talking about. So there's no keyword like some, but it's talking about the balloons. So 3 times as many balloons. So if somebody has 10 balloons, I'd multiply it by 3. If someone has 5 balloons, I'd multiply it by 3. So basically, 3 times as many balloons. That's our variable. We don't know how many balloons the original person had. Now you can write X or you can write B, it doesn't matter. Now step 3 on this problem, of course, I've already done the first 2 parts. Step 3 is just finalizing your answer. And at this level, if you have a variable with what's called a constant, the number up front, we write our constant becomes a coefficient, meaning it's connected, multiplied with the variable. And that would be how you'd write the answer. Okay, let's go ahead then and let's go on to the next type of problem. All right, let's take a look on page 16 at problem number 10. Problem number 10. All right, so problem number 10, fix this here. Problem number 10 is (4g) plus, and then in parentheses 3h minus 4j. Okay. Now up at the top in the directions, it does say evaluate each expression if g is equal to 6, h is equal to 10, and j is equal to 5. So they defined our variable up in the top. Make that j a little bit better here. Okay, so here we go. The very first step, step 1, is I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this problem, but instead I'm going to put parentheses where all the variables are. So instead of 4g, it's 4 parentheses plus, first set of parentheses here in this one, 3. Now an inner set of parentheses where the h is, minus 4, and parentheses where the j is. Okay. Step 2, I'm going to plug in my numbers. Okay, so after writing the parentheses, I'm going to plug in my numbers. Now, a lot of people like doing step 1 and step 2 at the same time. I'm okay with that as long as you can handle that. So step 1, parentheses, step 2. Let's see, this was a g, so when they defined the variable, that was a 6. The h is represented by a 10, and the 5 for the j. All right, now step 3 is I'm going to simplify. And I might even want to write my correct order of operations here because that's what I need to do. So here we go. I'm going to start with the parentheses. Now, I know there's a number of set of parentheses here, but the number one thing is completing the math inside the parentheses. So I'm going to do everything in here. Now, before I just do it all, because there's now 3 operations in here, I also inside want to follow my correct order of operations. So what that means is I'm going to go ahead and do multiplication before the subtraction. So I have 30 here. I'll go ahead and do this multiplication as well, left to right, and that's 20. So that gives me my subtraction. Now, every time I do a part, I'm going to want to rewrite it just to keep it organized. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and continue with what's in the parentheses, which is just subtraction at this point. So I have 10, so I have 4 times 6 plus 10. Now all of our parentheses are gone, or at least the problems inside the parentheses that we should simplify. So I'm going to now go ahead, I have multiplication here and addition here. I'm going to do multiplication first. So I have 24 plus 10. Now someone asked me earlier, they said, well, Mr. Wilkins, is it okay once there's only an integer inside the parentheses, can we drop the parentheses? The answer is yes, as long as nothing is multiplied with it. So because it's just sitting alone with being added to something else, you can drop it if you'd like. And then I go ahead and finish it off. Okay, so 24, I didn't finish that off. 24 plus 10 is 34. And there is our answer. Okay, a little more time consuming, compared to 4 and 12. Okay, so make sure you show your work. Okay, rewrite the problem using parentheses and plugging the numbers into parentheses, and then once you do that, simplify and rewrite. We might want to put that as a step. I shouldn't say a step, maybe a little reminder. That is, rewrite each time. All right, keep your work organized because these are going to get bigger as the year goes on. All right, so here we go. It's not going to take you 30 seconds. I'll give you, for this, I do want it to look a lot like this. I want you to show all your work, so I'll give you plenty of enough time. Give you a couple of minutes. I want you to do all of that. for problem number 32. Number 32. All right, go ahead and get started on that. Okay, I think I'm going to cut it a little short. Here's what I'm going to do. Go ahead and turn to your neighbor, share your answer. And if your answer doesn't match up, of course, you can share your work. But I also want you guys to do a partner check and make sure that they used parentheses for every number they plugged in for each variable. All right, so go ahead and do that. So the answer, and make sure that they did step 1 and 2 correctly. All right, 30 seconds, go. Okay, so go ahead and let's check our work. I'm actually running out of room here, so I'm going to turn it over. All right, and complete 32 on the back. So here we go. Problem 32. What it did was it showed that it was 7z minus y plus x. So the sum of y and x subtracted from the product of 7 and z. So here we go. Let's go ahead. It says it defines the variables as x is equal to 9, y is equal to 4, and z is equal to 12. All right, so here we go. Step 1, of course, and step 2, I'll just do together this time around. 7 times z is 12, minus, and then if you want to, you can actually change those outside parentheses to brackets. It's up to you. Y is 4, the x is 9. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead, do my order of operations. I'm going to start in the parentheses, the problem inside the parentheses, which is just 9 plus 4. And that gives us 13. Now again, remember what I said earlier, I can bring the brackets down, I can change it back to parentheses, or because it's subtraction, I can just leave it without parentheses, and that's totally fine. Okay, now I have multiplication here because they're next to each other with subtraction. I'm going to do my multiplication first. So you can go over to the side to do it, or if you can do it here, 7 times 2 is 14 if you need to carry the 1. 7 plus 1, because 7 times 1 is 7, plus 1 is 84. So 84 minus 13, and to finish it off, look at my 1s. 4 minus 3 is 1, and the number in my tens spot, 8 minus 1 is 7. So our answer is 71. Okay, now one last one here. Let's do one word problem together. Let's take a look at problem number 40. Problem number 40. Okay, it's the last problem on your homework assignment. It says a car rental company charges a one-time fee of $95 plus $65 per day. Write an expression that can be used to find the cost of renting a car for any number of days. Then it just goes on to say, if George rents a car for 4 days, what's the total cost? So it's actually wanting the expression, and it's wanting the answer. All right, so the expression, let's start here. It says a car rental company charges a one-time fee of $95. Okay, it's called a constant in math, meaning it's not going to change because it's a one-time fee. It's $95. But then it goes on to say plus. Well, it's a little bit harder than what we started off with, right? But it's still the plus sign. $65 per day. Well, let's talk about $65 per day. Okay? $65 per day means if it's 1 day, then it's just $65. However, if it's 2 days, right, we have to do 65 times 2. If it's 10 days, it's 65 times 10. So this part, of course, is 65 times however many days it is. So we can go ahead and use an X or a D for days. Okay? Now, that is our first answer. That's the expression. Okay? That's exactly what we did over here with numbers 4 and number 12. Okay, we took an expression. This is in paragraph form, right? But we pretty much did just this. The only difference is it's a little more challenging because you have a constant added to a variable, something that's changing. So it's like having two problems in one to write our expression. Now what we do is we go ahead and it says, the very last line says, if George rents a car for 4 days, what's the total cost? So all they're asking for us, they're defining the variable. They're saying 95 plus 65 times the day, remember, is the number of days. They're saying, what about 4 days? So if we solve this is going to tell us how much it would cost George to rent that car for 4 days. So here we go. Addition, multiplication, of course we do multiplication first according to order of operations. Okay, so 4 times 5 is 20. I can carry the 2. 4 times 6 is 24. Plus 2 is 26. Rewrite my problem. Now we can add 95 with 260, or we can just add on 5 here and then subtract 5 after we get an answer. So here's what I'm talking about. 260 plus 100 is 360, and then I'm going to subtract the 5 back. So 360 minus 5 is 355. And again, 260 plus 95, right? 5, 15, carry the 1. So either way it would work. Okay, just talking, reviewing some mental math strategies. Now, the very last thing, and I guess we can go ahead and this little reminder, step star is what we'll do in class a lot, is if it's a word problem, of course if it's asking for an expression, then this is the expression. But if it's a word problem and it's asking for a numerical answer, okay, it's 355, and so what we just solved, of course, if you don't know what your units you should write, reread the question. If George rents a car for 4 days, what is the total cost? Oh, I was about to put 355 days, but rereading it lets me know this is a cost, which means, of course, put our dollar sign on it, $355. So both of these would be your answer, and that's what's required for your homework on a problem like this.